The reading this morning is from Exodus chapter 16, verses 14 through 35. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as each of you needs, an omer to a person, according to the number of persons, all providing for those in their own tents." The Israelites did so, some gathering more, some gathering less. But when they measured it with an omer, those who had gathered much had nothing over, and those who had gathered little had no shortage. They gathered as much as each of them needed. And Moses said to them, "Let no one leave any of it over until morning." But they did not listen to Moses, and some left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and became foul. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it, as much as each needed, but when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the 6th day they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers apiece. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake, and boil what you want to boil, and all that is left over, put aside to be kept until morning." So they put it aside until morning, as Moses commanded them. And it did not become foul, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is the Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th, which is a Sabbath, there will be none." On the 7th day some of the people went out to gather, and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you suffer to keep my commandments and instructions? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the 6th day he gives you food for 2 days. Each of you stay where you are. Do not leave your place on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel called it manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made from honey. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, in order that they may see the food with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord, to be kept throughout your generations." As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the covenant for safekeeping. The Israelites ate manna 40 years, until they came to a habitable land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Please pray with me. Good and gracious God, you are my rock and redeemer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you. Amen. Do you believe in miracles? That is the question we started pondering last week. And for me, while the question sounds simple, the answer is a little more complicated. I want to believe in miracles. I pray for miracles. But I'm sometimes reluctant to say, yes, I believe in miracles, especially when I know that I, and probably all of you, have been hurt by those times you prayed desperately for a miracle that hasn't happened. But I also can't say, no, I don't believe in miracles, especially not after last weekend. I spent last weekend with my family at the lake, and I spent a lot of that time telling my 9-year-old godson to slow down and take it easy. Now that sounds like things you would typically tell a 9-year-old, but it was a miracle to tell it to Carter. because about a month ago, Carter was driving his four-wheeler while he was hit head-on by another vehicle. He was unconscious and unresponsive after the accident and was immediately airlifted to the hospital. We were out of town at the time and just had the message to pray for a miracle. And after lots of tests and lots of prayers, it was determined that while Carter had a slight skull fracture and a broken collarbone and a serious concussion, he was going to be okay. He was still going to be Carter, and that was miraculous news, such good news. And we expected this really long road of healing for him, and right away, that's what it looked like. He had an eye patch to stop his double vision, a sling for his broken collarbone, and was spending all of his time in low lights, not doing anything but resting. But Carter's healing astounded us all because in 3 short weeks, he was cleared by both neurology and ortho to resume regular activities, to take off the sling, to take off the eye patch, with the only restriction being just try to take it easy, which he is tired of doing, and he's even more tired of us telling him to take it easy, but we are so glad we get to see him back to himself and remind him to take it easy. Carter's healing was a miracle. That he is okay is a miracle. But I can see how this miracle happened through all of these wonderful agents on earth, through the doctors and responders and nurses and therapists that took care of him, through the rest and hydration for his body, through the love of his parents who made sure he got the very best care. Which makes it seem different than some of those miracles in the Bible, because it seems like there are no ordinary means behind these miracles. These big miracles where the sick are healed, the dead are raised, where storms are calmed and seas are parted, they are just things we see every day, and they are not things we expect to see every day. So sometimes it's hard to say, yes, I believe in miracles. But today, our story of manna falling from heaven, well, manna is a different kind of miracle. A miracle, I think, that is a little more subtle. Now, I know food falling from the sky is not subtle. It's miraculous and unexplainable. Yet this isn't quite a cloudy with a chance of meatballs situation where everyone's favorite food comes from the sky. Manna is a different kind of miracle. The Israelites don't even recognize it as food right away. First, a little background. You may remember last week that the Israelites were freed from slavery when Moses miraculously parted the Red Sea. After they escaped the Egyptians, the Israelites, they celebrated. They sang songs, they danced, they rejoiced. But now they have had about a month and a half in the wilderness, and they have come crashing down. They are hot. They are tired, they are hungry, they are hangry. They began to doubt their leadership. What do Moses and Aaron have planned? What are we doing? They even doubt their freedom, thinking maybe slavery wasn't so bad. At least there was food. Now we're going to die of hunger in this desert. And then something wonderful happens. God hears the Israelites complaining, and God does not reprimand them for not being positive. God does not tell them to count their blessings. God does not remind them that others have it worth. God hears the Israelites groaning, and God answers. God answers not just prayers, but complaints. God answers and sends them bread from heaven. But this bread apparently does not look a whole lot like bread. This scene when the Israelites come out and see this, that there's something on the grass and they gather together. Well, I imagine this scene a lot like my children when I tell them I've tried something new for supper, where they come warily to the table looking skeptical, and then when they finally get there, they look at it and say, "What is this?" Just like the Israelites said. So Moses explains this is the bread the Lord has given them. And we hear this bread looks like coriander seed and it tastes like wafers made from heaven, from honey. But that's not how I've pictured it. I've always imagined it tasting a lot like a communion wafer. I mean, it's food, it's substance, it will keep you alive, but it doesn't do a whole lot more of that. So while, of course, this manna from heaven is a miracle, I think it is the only miracle in the Bible that the recipients get sick of, that they start to complain about. We don't hear about lepers coming back to complain about their restored health, or those who can now see lamenting for the time they were blind. But manna is a miracle the Israelites get tired of. Food is literally raining out from the sky, but they are longing for the times they were slaves. From Numbers, it says, the Israelites wept again and said, if only we had meat to eat. Remember when we used to eat fish in Egypt, and cucumbers and melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our strength is dried up, and there is nothing but manna to look at. I can relate to the Israelites when they start complaining like this. I get it. It reminds me of a time about 10 years ago when we were in seminary and we decided to host a little Easter gathering for ourselves and some of our friends who weren't able to travel anywhere for Easter. So my husband went to the grocery store to buy a ham, and he comes back not only with the ham, but with this giant turkey. And they're doing that sale you sometimes see that if you buy a ham, you get a turkey for free. Since we were poor and in seminary, if he was going to get a free turkey, he was going to take the biggest one there was. So we have this giant turkey. So we roasted it and did mashed potatoes and all the trimmings. And the next day we ate sandwiches. And the next day we made it into casserole. And the next day we tried turkey jambalaya. And then we made turkey noodle soup. And you get the idea. By the end of the week, we were so sick of turkey. And it was lamenting the day this free turkey ever came into my apartment. That was only after a week. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years. That's a long time. Manna is a different kind of miracle. I think if this miracle was only about feeding, only about empty stomachs, then God surely would have rained down fish and cucumbers and melons and leeks and all the food the Israelites were craving. But this miracle isn't just about food. Manna is about daily bread, about knowing that each day God is going to be there to provide us with everything we need. God knew the Israelites were not just hungry. They were scared to be on their own. They were scared in this new and uncertain future. They were scared to live in freedom. The Israelites had known only slavery. The miracle of this story is that God is shaping them into a people. God is giving them what may be the greatest miracle of the Bible or of our lives. God is giving them a brand new identity, child of God. This is not an instant miracle. This is a journey. There is a journey from cowering under Pharaoh's whip to living fully and freely into being God's child. So this shaping starts with a few rules. And you know that this miracle is different when it comes with rules. The rules seem simple. Gather as much as you need. Don't save it for the next day. And gather double on the sixth day so you can take a Sabbath. And with this rule comes a promise. Each night there will be quail, each morning manna. In this provision, the Israelites are given a beautiful promise that God will show up for the Israelites each day. That God is not just a God of big dramatic moments like creation or the Exodus. God is there for the regular moments, for the day-to-day moments. God is there each day when they gather manna. God is there each day when they sit down to eat their bread together. Every day, God is there. This is how to be a people of God, is to know that each day God is showing up. Now, while these rules sound simple, we heard that they are hard to follow. Moses said, eat your fill, don't save any. But the Israelites don't listen. And we can't really blame them. They had to wonder, can we expect bread to rain down every single day? Does it make sense to eat everything right now? Would it hurt to save just a little, just in case? So they do, but when they wake up in the morning, all of it has spoiled. God is shaping them into the people. The children of God do not have to rely on themselves. They can put their trust in God, and every day God will provide. every day there will be enough. Not just of manna, but every day there will be enough for all they need for life. This is daily bread. I really sympathize with the Israelites on this one. I think this is a hard lesson that I feel like I'm learning again and again, to put things in God's hands and not my hands. I understand why it took 40 years of the Israelites eating manna, because I've been alive almost that long, and every day I have to remember to do this. So I can see how it took 40 years of stepping outside and seeing manna for the Israelites to know they could put their trust and their lives into God's hands. And we hear the Israelites had trouble with the last rule of keeping the Sabbath. And we can understand this as well. They were slaves. All they had known was working every single day. So there they were, ready to gather food on the seventh day, to treat it like any other. But God is there to shape them into a Sabbath people, into people who find rest in the Lord. For people who have known only slavery, this is a radical new idea, and this is such a gift. For 40 years, this miracle happens for 6 days a week. Every week, there is bread from heaven. And at the end of these 40 years, the Israelites are still far from perfect. But they are no longer slaves. They are God's people. They have an identity. And maybe this is what miracles do sometimes. Maybe they tell us who we are and shape us into God's people. So do I believe in miracles? Yes, I believe in these big biblical miracles, and I believe in miracles like Carter's, and I believe that miracles happen again and again through ages and earth. But I also believe in these ordinary, everyday miracles I've seen in my life. These miracles that don't seem amazing or miraculous at the time, but these are the miracles that have given me an identity, that have shaped me into a child of God. I've been shaped by ordinary miracles like my parents, who have loved me every day of my life and taught me what unconditional love looks like. And I've been shaped by the ordinary miracle of friends, and especially my spouse, who have been willing to offer me forgiveness again and again and have taught me how good it is to receive grace. And while I would say the birth of my children are big-time miracles, I am shaped by the ordinary miracle of being their parent each day. A vocation that really drives home that message that I am not in control and need to trust God. And today, as we talk about keeping the Lutheran Outdoors campfires burning, I have to share that a lot of those ordinary miracles that shaped me into a child of God, well, those happened the summers I spent at Nisodak as a camp counselor. I can definitely count those summers as ordinary miracles in my life. Being part of the camp community, I felt like I could be myself and be valued and seen, and this helped me know that God's love and acceptance are wide and unconditional, and it taught me how beautiful it is when we make room for everyone at God's table. And teaching and caring for campers and leading worship each week was where I learned to love this call we all have to care for our neighbors and share God's love. And it's where I first felt a call to doing this, to ordained ministry. And after spending all summer 5 nights straight with a group of 10 or 11 youth, and waking up early with them to polar bear into a cold lake, and going to bed late after singing at campfire, and doing all of the things in the time in between, well, that really taught me to value Sabbath rest. If miracles can sometimes be these ordinary, everyday moments that shape us into children of God, then camp is a place where miracles happen every summer, every day. So yes, I believe in miracles, and I believe the biggest miracle is that God not only loves us with a fierce, unstoppable love, but also that God comes to us in manna and in miracles and in doctors and in camp staff and in so many other ways. Also that we know who we are a loved and chosen child of God. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for the identity you have given us. Help us each to live into your love and live as a child of God each day. Amen.